and welcome to the 19th BOH Cameronian Arts Awards on set. I am Sabrina Hassan, and today I'd like to welcome the nominees for Original Script in the Theatre category. Welcome, everyone! Congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you.
Right? If there was an opportunity to collaborate with anybody in the industry, who would it be?
Somebody else go first, I don't know.
I'm gonna go first
Okay.
because I do have this one name in mind. I saw him in Chua, I saw him in Goldwyn and Hailstone. I think he's a marvelous actor. I love him. I want to work with you, Ghafi Akbar, one day, please. Manifesting! Manifesting! Yes, Ghafi Akbar, no one else. Ada lah orang lain juga. But Ghafi Akbar, number one in my list. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a specific name, but I do have an art form. Or a few actually. There are 3 art forms that I'm really interested in working with somebody from there. Visual, so like visual set, moving image, not film, dance and music actually, because I've given myself permission to explore music, and I think that's a form, because I feel like I'm musical when I write, but I know I'm not a musician, like I'm not trained. So I would love to have that work with somebody from these art forms. If that person could straddle all 3, I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. But yeah, I think that would be the next phase for me in terms of expanding my artistic horizons. Yeah.
I'd like to work with Jo Kukatas. I think she's a wonderful teacher, and she unlocks something in people in a way that I can only describe as magic. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a bit of a cop-out answer, because I've worked with this person before. But Vicky Nadaraja, who played Amma in Amachalam, this was my first time ever working with her. And I just think that for her, she's been acting for as long as I've been alive. But I don't think she has gotten the opportunity to really show what she can do yet. You know, and as a 50-year-old Indian woman in Malaysia, people are just not giving her the chance to be seen. And for me, if I write, whatever it is that I do next, I will definitely want something that allows her to shine the way she deserves. So, Vicky, Amma, you're not off the hook. We will work again.
Amachalam is a somewhat personal story. In it, you break the 4th wall quite a few times. So why did you choose to do that?
I think there are 2 main reasons why I chose to approach Amachalam the way I did. Conceptually, it's Ajay is talking to the audience after his passing, actually. And so, to me, the laws of reality don't really apply to him, because he's kind of just reliving his life and all his memories. So he goes from talking to the audience and then reenacting those memories that he's talking about with the other characters. But also just from a character standpoint, there are a lot of things that Ajay talks about which I don't think you would say in an everyday conversation. So these are a lot of your innermost thoughts and things that you think, but you don't say to people. And so I needed a way for us to still hear those thoughts, to hear those words, to hear those those fears and ambitions and dreams, but in a way that felt natural. And so to me, the only way that made sense would be for him to directly address the audience as if that no one was there and he was just, talking to himself almost. Right. Yeah.
So you're saying that it happens after his passing.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a freedom in sharing because after that, like you said, you're not worried about societal pressures or what people would say. So do you think that that?
Yeah, so that's actually a very interesting question, because during the development of the script itself, when I first presented the ending to the people that I was getting feedback from, they were like, "Are you sure? Is this the tragic ending that you want for your play?" Because we don't get many queer brown plays, and so when we do have one, a lot of my peers were asking for a happier ending, a more hopeful ending. But at the same time, to me, when I was writing the play, this is a reality that a lot of queer brown kids, especially in this country, face, right? So the idea of sharing who you are and embracing your identity and being comfortable in that is just not something that a lot of us have the luxury to do. And in a lot of ways, being queer, your identity is a secret that you take to your grave and you don't ever talk about it. And so that is what I wanted to also highlight, the fact that the whole reason Ahmad Chalam exists is purely out of spite, because this is honest, because I was watching Love, Simon. I don't know if you guys have heard Love, Simon. So Love, Simon it's a Western rom-com that's queer, and there was this very particular scene that I was watching where Simon comes out to his parents, and they just have, his mother especially, they have the most wholesome and endearing reaction. And then the whole show, after that point, it's them going on this journey with him as they find this mystery boy that he's actually in love with. And very sadly, I think it made me very angry watching that, because I was like, this would never happen to me, and this was not my reality. This is not the reality of a lot of people that I grew up with who are queer. And I was, very upset that there was nothing that represented that, side of the coin, that no one was talking about, the pain that comes out with coming out, especially in a Malaysian Indian household in Malaysia. So that's kind of why I chose the ending and the way that I wanted Ajay's story to end.
Talking about pushing boundaries, so Kamini and Nabil, for Come Home and Eat, it's a sequel to Don't Like It Then Leave, right? So how was this sequel treated? What other themes that you want to explore through Come Home and Eat?
Would you like to go first? Kamini?
Sure, okay. So I think Don't Like It Here Then Leave, there were already themes discussed like home, identity and belonging, but it wasn't anchored in the theme of food. So in Come Home and Eat, we expanded on these topics, so for example, the concept of home, what is home, where is home, who is home, and then for identity, it's like self-discovery, connecting to your roots, and then for belonging, it's really about belonging within yourself, in your family and within Malaysian society. So those, for me, those were the three themes that kind of resonated. Nabil?
And it's very interesting because we should say that we are not writers. We are actually actors who, it was a devised show, it was a devised play, so we had to write the pieces ourselves. And of course, we did a lot of exercises in exploring the themes through food, basically. And I would say I came out of the production feeling like I'm a good writer, honestly, dude.
And you are.
Thank you, Kamini. But honestly, it was such a good exploration process. We talked a lot about identity, belonging. Of course, it's all being told through the lens of food, tapi kita pun macam faham a lot about ourselves also going through it. And also understand a lot about others, because there were times when we were talking about acceptance and tolerating, and we had to I had to make the terms separate in my own head. So yeah, I don't know, a lot of self-discovery, a lot of love for not just for the country, but for the people around us as well. Wow, jawapanku not bad.
Did you write it?
No. Yeah, I thought about it. But I would say, yeah.
But it's interesting because food is something that we find. Well, for me, I find comforting. But through that theme, you actually there were lots of uncomfortable things that were mentioned, right? And the way that it was staged, different pieces were staged differently. Was that a choice that was made during the writing, or that was when you were rehearsing?
Well, I think it is a format that the director kind of wants to apply to the production itself, to the show. We had a lot of pieces actually in the beginning. So they were let's say, out of the 10 pieces that we took at the end, we had I know
tons
20,
more. There were
30,
lots of
40.
small little writing pieces from which the larger production was derived from. So it's all small things. We were all given sort of prompts, home is, food has, food must, that kind of thing. And so the stories and the conflict that came out of those stories came organically from the rehearsal process, yeah.
It was quite a personal process as well.
Yes,
we
for
learned
sure.
a lot about each other.
And very quickly had to become very trusting of each other because we were being so honest with the stories. Yeah.
If Fault Lines were to be staged overseas, what would change?
To be staged overseas? Well, of course, that depends on the country. So I think, because I've been thinking the US, of course, definitely came to mind because it's set in New York, right? So I was like, well, how would a US crowd, audience respond to that? To be very honest, I don't think it changed anything in terms of the script, but maybe the way we engage the audience. Maybe we'd have talkbacks after every session. Maybe we'd highlight a certain part about, because I think there's one feedback that I got, and it's something that I realized. Somebody I know, they're Malaysian, maybe in their 50s, maybe close to 60s, not non-Malay and non-Muslim. So they said they learned a lot about Islam through the play. So I think, what I'm getting at is, I would maybe talk a little bit about the very, in the everyday things that Muslim, in this case, Muslim women do. I think it came out a lot, and maybe just explain a little bit about those. I don't want to call them rituals, but practices, what you do, and also how it's a marker of public and private domains. I think like the very personal when Hafsah starts asking Shireen about is she menstruating, for example, those kind of stuff, and then how does that then link to about her praying, and then how that's like a gateway to a deeper conversation. So I think maybe during the talkback sessions we just talk about those are just little snippets or maybe things that you don't really that you wouldn't have known, but this is just wanting to show a different maybe cultural specificity, just as a point of conversation. I think to go beyond if it's in the US, right, to go beyond the you Muslims and war on terror and all of that stuff, just to have that conversation. And I think because I'm also cautious about I wouldn't want to position it as like a Muslim play or anything like that, right? Like I wouldn't, but I think it's showing the mundane everyday of the culture, the main culture, which is like the Malay culture, Malaysian Malay culture, in the story and the family, and so I don't think I changed anything to be very honest. Of course, maybe we'd have better surtitles. Okay, that would be better surtitles in English, but no, we wouldn't. If thinking about the US, I thought about like a country. No, I don't. As time goes by, Singapore. I'm not so sure the political aspects would fly actually with Singapore. Some parts about the in the script. I don't think I changed anything, to be honest. I don't think I would change anything because the beauty of theatre, I think, is you can say what you want to say without having to say so much. Like if you ask me, I'd say I want people to reflect on I just want people to reflect on maybe societal divisions and how we hold on to them or how we let go of them and how we can be quite unkind to other people, Okay, so let's say that's what I want to say. I don't need to talk at length about that necessarily. You just watch the play. And I think that's the beauty of theatre as a medium. And we've had a few months for me to reflect on the play and to get feedback and to hear reflections from people. Like I think, I wouldn't meddle too much and try to present or curate the play too much because I think it stands on its own. But the conversations and discussions I think would be helpful. That I would actually like to hear what different audience members think based on their locale. Yeah.
When you are writing and developing it, even for the device pieces, what gives you the courage to put it out there, to put the work out there, Do you have expectations of what, the audience...
we did apply some filters. Like, I think each of the actor for Come and Eat, we each had our own piece. And for my own, it was getting a bit too personal because it was about a family member. So Calvin and I, the director, we worked to kind of filter it. So not all the truth is out there on stage and on paper. We kind of shift the angle a bit and the perspective a bit. So it becomes about food rather than what I was trying to say. So I still macam tarik a bit, so I didn't go all out. But I'm not sure about your piece, Kamini.
I think when I was asked to try and write a monologue, I always, whether consciously or subconsciously, think about the fact that I'll be saying it to people. And when it's a monologue, it is you standing there, which is very vulnerable, and it's not typical of other theatre stagings where you are even if a different part of yourself, you are a different character. So subconsciously, I will have that kind of filter in my head. But at the same time, I think about if I were in the audience and I were somebody who can resonate with that person speaking for whatever reason, their identity or whatever, what I would appreciate them saying or what I would appreciate on stage. So I get my courage from that, being able to maybe represent even just one person's thing. And also, I get a lot of strength from my cast members. I trust them so much, and there's this like intrinsic, connection when you are in a piece that is this vulnerable, and I get a lot of strength from my cast members also. Yeah.
Arjun, what about you?
So Amachalam came out like that, no pun intended. It started off as an exercise that I was doing in therapy, where my therapist, we were talking about a lot of things, and as with me, all things relate back to my mom, and so she urged me to just try and write something, because we talked about how do I process emotion, and I was very honest that how I process emotion is through writing, is through theater, is through art. So her prompt was just write one monologue to your mom, say whatever it is that you can't say to her directly, and then that monologue turned into 20 pages long. And then I was like, okay, rereading it, I realized that I am probably not the first person to ever go through this. But at the same time, I haven't heard this, talked about at least, in Malaysia. And I was kind of talking to my therapist, and in that sense, she was like, write a play, but don't think about anyone watching it, because then you will start to really filter yourself, especially with a play like this. And so the first draft of Amachalam, the final staging was about 65, 70 pages long. The first draft of Amachalam was 120 pages long. And it was just a trauma dump of everything that I thought, every single bad experience, every joy, every pain, every heartbreak, every dream that I've ever had into that first draft. And then working with Khairi Anwar, who is the artistic director for Nomalist, who's also become a personal mentor of mine. Then we started working together on how to make this appropriate for an audience, because you don't want them to come and sit and for 2 hours just be bombarded with trauma. And at some point audiences will shut off, because they're not able to take it. And so trying to balance the highs and the lows so that by the end you feel like you've known this character, through the good and the bad, through his happy times and his heartbreaks. And yeah, that's kind of how, I did end up playing Ajay, which was not the plan at all. I think I made it very clear from the beginning. I was like, once I give my director this play, I'm out. It's like, I'm not doing anything anymore. But I think as we went through the audition process, it kind of became clearer that I needed to play it. And we had to have a lot of things in place because, at some point my mom was going to come and watch the show, and I made sure she came at the last possible show, so that
She was hearing things for the first time.
So she was hearing all of this. We've had little conversations over the years, but this was the first time where I made her sit at the final row just so that I couldn't see her. But yeah, for the most part, this is the first time my mom has ever heard me talk about my queerness and my trauma and trigger warnings, but my suicide attempts, all of those things. This was the first time that my mom was hearing about it. Yeah, so in terms of your question, like, how did I find the courage to do it? I think I didn't think of it at the very beginning, but it was after opening night. I had this just very surreal experience of, this is my first play, 4 years of trying to write the script, put it on stage. And then I'm in tears by the end of the first play because I'm like, oh my God, the story's out. But what happened is that after that show, someone came up to me, and I've never met this person before, and I had no idea who they were. They were in tears, and I was like, I'm in tears, and we're both crying. And then they were like, oh, can I talk to you like privately? I was like, okay, sure. And so like we went off to the side, and they started being like, I've never told anyone this before, not even my parents, not even my best friends don't know, but I feel like I want to tell you. And they came out to me for the very first time. And they're like, this is the first time I've ever said this to someone, but you've made me feel seen and protected and loved. And they came out. Not fully knowing how to hold that moment, but it was then I realized that this play has gone way bigger than just me. This is not me telling my story anymore. Like Amachalam is not mine anymore. It belongs to the community, and I just hope that this will forever be a piece that when people who have watched it think about it, it's a source of strength that they think about, when they feel alone or they feel unloved or they feel like they can't do this anymore. I went through all that, and I'm here, and I'm sitting here talking to you guys about it. 5 years ago, before I came out, this would have been the furthest thing, that I would ever think about. But the fact that we're nominated and we're here with cameras and I'm talking to you about it, it's wild, but it hopefully inspires hope to people who really need it.
How do you stop it from being self-indulgent?
You have to rely on somebody else to tell you that this is too much.
I think that's where workshopping comes in, I feel. Yeah, that's when workshopping comes in.
Especially when, it's a very personal piece.
Yeah.
Right?
So like I was saying, it's like when I first wrote Amachalam too, it was 120 pages of just the worst things that you could possibly talk about. Yeah. But you have to understand that your audiences are coming in for an hour and a half, and they are hearing all of this for the first time, and you cannot just unleash things on them. You have to give them space to breathe. So you need the comedy, you need the lighthearted moments and things like that. And yeah, like Adriana was saying, that's where the workshopping process comes in. And I know Fault Lines took 10 years, Amachalam took 4 years of.
But in an advice piece, do you have that luxury of time?
We had 4 months of rehearsal, so it was a long time, and we had clear schedules and also phases that we had to go through. I think, I don't know about you, but the process was for me like macam put everything out there first, and then we'll scale it down or either put out some stuff or padam some stuff afterwards.
In a way, it's the same thing like in any kind of work, right? You're trying to say the most amount of things, or the most impactful things in the most concise way possible. Because afterwards, you lose your audience anyway. So that's that awareness as well. Yeah.
I think also like actually while Arjun was speaking, it hit me that you wrote a play, right? You didn't write a report. There's a reason you wrote a play. So like why, so you have to be so and this is where I come in. If I may, like one thing that I had to grapple with was thinking about loyalty to the form, to the craft. Like there's a certain way to write a play, which all playwrights do, which I challenge, but at the same time, I think you do have to honor that. It's a craft that's transcended countries. I think that's the question. And this is if you're doing anything really. If you wrote a poem, right? You didn't write a short story. Why? And then what does that mean? So I think that question. Because if it was like a full dump where people shut down again, like that's kind of report-ish, right? Yeah. Like and you chose your art form. So I think you need to honor that, but also like not feel that it's constricting you. But yeah, I think pay attention to what you wrote. Yeah.
If you could sum up Fault Lines in a sentence, what would it be?
Fault Lines is about being true to yourself and accepting others unconditionally. Yeah.
Thank you. Nabil, what about you?
I don't know. People, places, sense of belonging, yeah, and fun, and food. I'm kidding. I'm gonna stop there. Yeah.
I think essentially it's just how food helps me find myself. Yeah.
Amachalam in a sentence is you are loved. In case no one has ever told you, you are loved, and that's what Amachalam is to me.
Thank you all for being here today.
It's got way heavier than I thought it would be.
Congratulations on your nomination.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.